her genitals mutilated by a so-called cutter, a woman who uses a razor blade or some other sharp instrument to remove all the external parts of a woman's female organ. And in extreme cases, they sew the orifice up so that the girl can only urinate or menstruate a little bit later on. When she gets married, they open up the orifice up for her to have sexual relations with her husband or to deliver babies. It's against the law in Egypt to do this to a girl, but the girl is ignored. In Djibouti and in Somalia, over 97% of the women or girls have had their sexual organs mutilated. The United Nations General Assembly has outlawed this practice 2 times. It has no effect. Well, that's just one of the things. Honor killings are still perpetrated in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, India, where if a girl in a family is raped by a stranger through no fault of her own, she's considered to be a disgrace to her family. And for the honor of the family members kill her. Most often by the father. In Egypt, over a 10-year period, 20% of the murders were conducted or perpetrated by the mother. And increasingly in countries like Jordan and Morocco, where there's some laws against it, the murder is conducted by a teenage brother who is impervious to adult punishment if he should or should not be punished for this crime. In most cases, they're not punished. Those are the kind of things that go on in countries around the world. I would say one of the most severe punishments is to marry a child at an age of 8 to 12 years old to an older man, either for the benefit of the parents or just to get rid of a child in a family who the family feels they cannot support by feeding her. And it's an easy way to get rid of a little girl. Well, that's not the worst crime against girls. This next thing that I'll tell you is almost inconceivable. There are 160 million females missing from the face of the earth. That's 3 or 4 times as many people who died in World War II. About 50 million died in the Second World War. 160 million females are missing from the face of the earth. They've been strangled by their parents at birth, or in more modern times, with free access to the internet and with the cheap sonograms, the parents can ascertain that the fetus is going to be a girl, so they abort her before she's born. There was a movie that came out last November called It's a Girl, a very famous movie. And in it, there's a woman from India who, without any embarrassment, says she strangled 8 daughters at birth because she and her husband could not afford to feed them. The first time I went to China was in 1949. Later on, after I left the White House, I went back to China in 1981. They were very proud of that program for population control or family planning. And they had billboards over China with the parents holding a little child's hand, always a boy, and with the slogan, "One is best, 2 is most." And the Chinese government would punish the parents if they had more than 1 child in some cases or 2 child at the extreme. So the parents, without adequate birth control, would continue to have babies. They wanted boys, so they would kill the girls. In China now, for every 100 girls, there are 118 boys. And if you multiply that 18 or whatever you want to call it, percent, times a billion people, you see how many girls are missing in China. In India, the ratio is 112 boys to 100 girls. And in some parts of India, there are only 650 girls every 1,000 boys. Just look at those ratios. And you can see that the deliberate murder of big girls by their parents is perhaps one of the most horrible crime rates the world has ever seen. These are the things that go on throughout the world, and very little is done about it. Why is this done? Well, in the title of my book, I use three explanations: religion, violence, and power. Religion. The Dean has already mentioned the reason why my wife and I withdrew from the Southern Baptist Convention in the year 2000. Because the church ordained that women are inferior to men in the eyes of God. In some Southern Baptist Convention theological centers, a woman is not permitted to teach a classroom of students if there is a boy in the class. And women can't be chaplains, they can't be deacons, they can't be pastors of a church. And the reason for that is that men control the power structure in the Southern Baptist Convention. Other religions are the same. I know the Catholic Church, which is very important here and in my own area as well, does not permit women to be pastors or deacons in the church, or to administer the most precious sacraments of the church. I wrote to Pope Francis when I finished my book. I sent him a copy of the book. He wrote me back, and he said he agreed with me that women should play an increasing role in the Catholic Church, which I appreciate. What will happen in the future, I don't know. I noticed that a card who is important here in Boston, on an interview, I think 60 Minutes last Sunday night, I explained the disparity by saying, not quite facetiously, that, well, women can have babies and men can't. Which I don't think is quite a logical reason why. Well, anyway, I'm not belaboring that point. But the other thing is violence. And our country is particularly guilty of setting a standard of violence that makes it possible for women to be abused with impunity. Our country, my wife and I have been in more than 145 countries in the world. And there's a general impression, almost universal, that the number one warmongering nation on earth is the United States of America. We've been at war almost continually with 30 different countries since the Second World War. In 4 years, we did not go to war. We never fired a bullet. We never dropped a bomb. We never launched a missile. I won't say which 4 years it was. But you see, when religious leaders say that women are not equal to men, then that gives the potential woman abuser an excuse within his own family, a husband, an employer who wants to pay women less than men for the same work, or other means that I've already described to you. If women are not equal in the eyes of God, why should I treat my wife as an equal? And violence lowers the standard of relationships between human beings. And the powerful take advantage of their authoritative or dominant position. When I left office as governor, there were about 1 in 1,000 people in prison in the United States. And now 7.3 times as many. Out of every 1,000 people, 7.3 on average imprisoned. Since I left the White House, the number of black women in prison has increased 800%. And the United States has more people in prison than any other nation on earth on a percentage basis, and it's been increasing. We're the only developed country on earth that has the death penalty. And in my book, I describe all the reasons why this is a fallacious approach to controlling violent crimes. In states that have a death penalty, the murder rate is greater, even when two states are side by side. None of the countries in Europe have a death penalty. And 90% of all the executions in the world are done by China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United States of America. These kind of things deeply concern me. Not because of me, but because of the impact it has on women and girls. I come now to one of the great universities on earth, maybe the greatest. And in our university system in America, it's a symbol of